Hey, a quick note before we dive in. For the first time ever, I'm running a cohort of Career Reset, my group coaching program. I know that job seekers benefit from a community that gets it and a guide who understands this market. This May, we'll all start the program together. You get instant access to the full curriculum when you join, and live coaching kicks off Monday, May 4th. If you want to get a feel for it first, I'm hosting free Ask Me Anything sessions every Friday until we start. In our first session, I answer your questions on LinkedIn, resumes, interviews, consulting jobs, and how to stay current on AI. Register for the free Friday workshops at ericaparkerprice.com/AMA. Okay, now let's get into the episode. Confidence is what's in the rearview mirror. You can see it in your past. You know you've done it. Courage is that open road ahead. If you're job searching right now, you're in the right place. Welcome to Land Your Next Job, the show that helps you move from ghosting and rejection to interviews and offers. I'm Erica Parker Price, a certified career coach with a background in tech who has spent nearly a decade helping professionals land roles at companies like Microsoft, Google, and mission-driven organizations. Each week, I share what's actually working in today's job market, from LinkedIn and networking to how AI is reshaping hiring. You'll get clear strategies and inspiration so you can run this marathon without burnout or guesswork. Follow the show and let's land your next job together. Hi, and welcome to Land Your Next Job. I am your host, Erica Parker Price, and today we are talking about courage and confidence. We'll be getting into what the difference is and how it shows up in your job search. So as a coach, I will tell you that courage is not something that people come and ask me about. I can say very rarely would somebody say, I'm having a hard time finding the courage to do this. What people do talk about is confidence. And even more so, sometimes it's clear to me that there are issues of confidence that are showing up as avoidance or procrastination or something else. So sometimes the confidence issue's on the surface, sometimes it's buried deep beneath, but I want to go a little bit deeper and get into what the difference is between courage and confidence. Let me start out by telling you a little bit of story about how this showed up in my own life. For those of you that don't know my backstory, I had a long career pause in my overall career. So I spent about a decade in tech. I worked for companies like Microsoft, Symantec, and Intel. And then I took 13 years off to raise my family. Eventually, I did return to tech, but I want to focus on is something that happened during that time that I wasn't doing paid work, that I wasn't in a corporate job. I had 2 little boys. I had them while I was working for Intel. I was in a busy job. I was running a North American program. I traveled a ton. And at the time that my boys were almost 2 and 4, I decided that I needed to step away. It was challenging for me. I was in particular living in a different state than the team I was managing. I was traveling about a third of the time and something really had to give. So for me, I made the decision to step away from that career, but I still wanted to do things, right? I still had all kinds of ideas and aspirations. And so one of the things that I did during that time was I became a writer. Now, how do you become a writer? That is something that I think everybody has this vision of. And don't worry, that's not what this podcast is about. I'm not telling everybody how to go become a writer. But for me, that was something that I really wanted to do. I had a couple different thoughts. Did I want to be a fiction writer? Did I want to be a freelance writer? And an opportunity came to me while I was thinking about that freelance writing. I live in the Seattle area. I was a subscriber to the Seattle Times. And there was a particular section of the paper that was focused on my county. There was an advertisement in the paper, and it said the editor of that section was inviting everybody. It was an open house. Come on in and meet him, meet the department. Now, I don't think that it was probably targeted at people like me that were staying home with their kids that were actually thinking, I want to be a writer, but that is exactly how I took that. So I showed up at that event, and from the moment I got there, from the moment they passed out the name tags and everybody put in what their name was, and then right below that, they would put their company name. And so I am surrounded by people who have their name, and then it says they're the state representative, they're the person in charge of the water department, they're the editor of the Seattle Times. Everybody has a title. And I am just staring at this blank name tag that I'm supposed to be putting my name on. And I have to decide what it is I'm going to put on there. And in this instance, I decided to put nothing on it, right? I just put my name on it because the fact that I wanted to be a writer did not, to me, seem to tell me that I should be able to go ahead and put that on there. So what I did was I just put my name on there. And of course, I think that's going to make that question go away. But no, everybody that comes up and introduces themselves to you says, "Hi, and what do you do?" This was a moment where I really had to step into what I wanted to be doing. I was not a writer. I was attending this event because I wanted to be a writer. I was attending because I thought if I could talk to the editor, I could give him some of the ideas for stories that I wish I was seeing in the newspaper. So was I an aspiring writer? Yes. But was I actually sitting at home writing those stories? No, I wasn't. I didn't really have anything to fall back on. But when I saw that name tag, I thought I'll just put my name in there and I won't write anything down for job title or organization that I'm with, and that'll take care of the problem. I can just be here under the radar. Well, of course, it didn't work out that way. People come up, they introduce themselves to you, and everybody asks, "What do you do?" And at that moment, I really had to make a decision. Was I going to say, "I'm a subscriber and I just felt like coming for the free cookies," or was I going to step into it? And I decided at that moment to step into it. So I said, "I'm a writer." And who knows, I can't remember if I said I was an aspiring writer, I was a freelance writer, I was a wannabe writer. I don't even remember. I think my brain honestly went probably mostly blank at that time. But I know the word writer came out of my mouth. I eventually met the editor at the newspaper. And what happened was that he invited me to come take a writing class with him. I will make this story short, but I will tell you that I took that class. He asked me what I wanted to write about. I did some research. I came up with an idea. And my idea was to write about Lolita, who was an orca whale that had been captured. At the time, I believe it was 35 years earlier. She was the last living orca whale that had been captured out of the seas around Seattle, Puget Sound. And she was still in captivity. There were groups of people that were working to free her. And I told him I wanted to write that story. He nodded his head, said, "Go for it." He worked with me. He helped me. And I will tell you that over the course of doing that story, I had to say I am a writer so many times. When I called up the person who had witnessed her capture, he happened to have been the Secretary of State in the state of Washington at the time, I had to say I am a writer, because how was I going to get that interview unless I told him who I was? I had to say I was writing on behalf of the Seattle Times. Did I have a contract with them? Absolutely not. But I was working with the editor, and so that part of it was true. I actually ended up flying all the way to Florida to meet that whale and to see her. And when I was doing that, when people were saying, "Oh, what are you going to Florida for?" I would say, "I am writing an article for the Seattle Times on this." Now, had the Seattle Times said they were going to publish it? No. Had they offered me any money to do it? No. Were they paying my way to Miami? No. I happened to be lucky, and my brother was a pilot, so he helped me out on the flight. But all of that was a giant step in courage for me. And the reason that I say it's courage is because I had absolutely no confidence that I could do that. Every single time I opened my mouth and said, "I am a writer, I am doing this story on Lolita," that was a step in faith and courage. I had absolutely nothing in my background that said I could write a freelance article for a newspaper. I had literally never done it before. Well, fast forward, that story ended up running on the cover of the Seattle Times. The whole time I was working on this story, I really never knew if it was going to be published. But the night before it came out, I got an email from the editor, and he said, "Check tomorrow morning's paper above the fold." And for those of you that don't know, above the fold means you're right there under the Seattle Times logo. It means you're in the top half of the page. And that's exactly what happened. They ran a giant story. There were multiple articles inside the paper about it. And it was part of reigniting the campaign to bring Lolita home. Now, in the end, I will say that the story did not have the happy ending. There are a lot of corporate and legal reasons why that never came to pass. And eventually Lolita did pass away at the aquarium where she'd been residing in Miami. But I really do think it moved the needle on how people view orca captivity altogether. So this is not a story about that. This is a story about courage over confidence. And I am sharing this story because I had absolutely no confidence that I could do what I was doing, that I could be a writer, that I could get published on the front page, that I could fly to a different city and state to do research on a story that I was writing. The reason I didn't have confidence is because I had never done it before. And so that's where I want to take this. I want to look at what the difference is between courage and confidence. And we're going to start with the definitions. And I promise we're going to take this back to your job search and share ways that you can find that same courage. So confidence, I pulled two different definitions out of the Merriam-Webster dictionary. The first one is a faith or belief that one will act in a right, proper, or effective way. So you either have a faith or a belief that you can do something, that you know how to do it, and you have a belief that you're going to do it. The quality or state of being certain. Now, the only thing that is giving you that certainty, faith, or belief is the fact that you have done it before. So confidence is, I have done it before, I know I can do it, I'm going to do it again. Courage, very differently, is the mental or moral strength to venture, persevere, and withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. And I like that word venture because it's really showing this is the first time you're doing something. It's going to take mental or moral strength to do it. You're going to have to stick with it. That's the persevere part. And you're going to have to withstand some sort of discomfort. It's described in the definition as danger, fear, or difficulty. Now, applying for jobs may not be dangerous. It definitely can come with fear. It can definitely be difficult. But the reason that I want to bring these two definitions up is because I think so often people think that they just need to dig a little bit deeper to get some confidence so they can go do the thing. Now, what is the thing? It could be applying for a job. It could be sending a message to somebody that you haven't talked to in 4 years to ask for their help. It could be showing up for an interview. And if you're ever wondering, why is it that I am hesitating to do this? Why don't I feel confident? In many cases, it's going to be because you've never done it before. So I want you to think about what is it that this job search is asking you to do that is brand new to you. So many people have never interviewed in a job market that's behaving like this job market is. We're in 2026 right now. Most people that are out there interviewing tell me it's never been like this. The phone used to ring. I would go on a couple interviews. I would decide between those jobs. This is completely different than that experience. I also have people who have been working for a long period of time at one company and they haven't done interviews in years or maybe even ever, certainly not at the level. So if you have worked your way up at a company and you're at a director level, you're at a senior level, and that's what you're interviewing for, in many cases, you've never done that, right? Some people, some companies actually do have people interview to move from department to department, but a lot of companies don't. So what you're being asked to do is frequently requiring the courage to step out and do something you've never done before, rather than the confidence that you know you can do it. The way I think of it is really how they stand in time. Confidence is essentially what's in the rearview mirror. You can see it in your past, you know you've done it. Courage is that open road ahead. And with that open road ahead, it's really acting in the presence of either fear or uncertainty. You know you haven't done it, and there's something that's blocking you from doing it. Now, is it capital F fear, terrified, or is it little f fear? I just don't feel like doing it. It feels uncomfortable. It could be either one. But if it's fear that's driving your decisions, even discomfort, I would say kind of a minor version of it, what it's doing is it's holding you back in your job search. So what I want everybody here to recognize is that it's okay that confidence isn't available to you because you're being asked to do something you've never done. What you do need to rely on is that courage. That same courage that I had when I stepped into that room and I said, I'm a writer. When I picked up the phone and said, I'm working on a story for the Seattle Times. When I bought the plane ticket to go to Miami so that I could get pictures of that whale. All of that was purely based on courage. And I know that each of you have had moments where you have had to draw upon courage. It may not be for a job search, but you have done hard, scary, uncertain things before, and maybe you didn't call it courage, but maybe you're somebody who became a parent and you had no idea what you were doing. Maybe you tried a new sport. Maybe you stepped onto a stage to play a musical instrument. Maybe you've been through a crisis that was completely unexpected and you had to learn what all of that was about. All of those things are ways where you have showed up with courage, and that is proof that you can do it in another moment. What we're talking about here is specifically applying that courage to the job search. So, for example, you're applying for a job and you only meet 7 of the 10 requirements for that job. What do? Do you pass, or do you decide you're going to go for it anyway? I say you go for it anyway. Reaching out to someone that you've never met on LinkedIn and not overanalyzing their response when they get your message. Answering a question in an interview when you have no idea what the answer is. So envision yourself sitting in an interview and somebody asks your opinion or what you would do in a certain situation, and you literally don't know the word or let's say whether it's a piece of software or a particular piece of legislation, you have no idea what it is. And they're asking you a question specifically about that. That's what takes courage, to know what to say instead of freezing, to be able to come up with an answer that says, I don't know, but this is how I would figure it out, or asking for clarification. Showing up at a networking event, just like I said, that was essentially a networking event when I showed up at the Seattle Times event. I hadn't been to a networking event in years. And I for sure hadn't been to one where I really had no business being there in the first place. So for me, what courage really is all about is doing it anyway, even when you're experiencing fear and discomfort. The reason that I bring it up is because this is one way that we hold ourselves back. If we look at the job search as something where we are always going to be comfortable, we are always going to be doing things that we have done before that we're comfortable with, then you're never going to get to the other side. The way I think of it is everything that we want lies on the other side of fear, lies on the other side of discomfort. And you have a choice. You can go for that, or you can stay over here where it's comfortable. And some of you may be saying, I don't even have a choice, right? I literally have to do that. Okay, then yes, absolutely. But what I'm telling you is don't wait for the confidence to show up, because it's not going to. Go forward with that courage. In one of my recent podcasts, I can't recall if it was last week or the week before, we were talking about the one thing that you actually can control, and that's your thoughts. Now, this is one area where it is absolutely going to show up for you. So let's think about what is the thought that's causing the fear. If we look at something simple, like reaching out to someone on LinkedIn for help. Let's say it is a person that you used to work with, but you can't figure out what to say. And even when you do have a draft of something to say, you're very hesitant to send it. We'll go with hesitant as what you're feeling. What are the thoughts that are driving that feeling of hesitancy? I'm going to guess that it is something along the lines of they're going to wonder why I'm reaching out to them. They won't remember who I am. There is some thought that is driving that hesitancy, discomfort, fear, whatever it is, that's making you not hit send. If you want to hit send, if we reverse engineer back, sending the message is what you want to do. How you want to feel, courageous is how you want to feel when you're doing it. What is it that you need to think? And I'll give you a minute on that. Just think about what thought could make you feel courageous to actually go hit send. And this is a super minor thing. There might be much bigger, more courageous actions that you're needing to take. But for the purpose of this discussion, I think just describing it in a small way is really helpful. What if you were to think it's just one message? Or it doesn't hurt to ask? Or people like to help others? Or I would be willing to do this for someone else? What if you were to take one of those thoughts to build that feeling of courage that would allow you to go hit send on that message? That's what I'm talking about. Just breaking it down into small individual actions instead of waiting for the confidence to show up. Instead of thinking, last time I did this, I got a response. Maybe there isn't a last time. Maybe last time you did it, you didn't get a response. That's what we're looking at, is how do you get the courage to move past that discomfort and go ahead and do what it is you need to do. And the reason I'm bringing up networking is because it is such a important part of the job search right now, making those connections, getting those connections to support you, doing your research on the companies and the jobs that you're looking for. All of that is important. All of that matters so much more than just applying to the jobs that you see posted on LinkedIn. So this is all about getting to the other side of that discomfort. Like I said, everything you want is on the other side of it, and it's figuring out how do you take that action to get over there. And sometimes breaking it down into those tiny steps to figure out what is the thought that you're having can be really powerful. I will share just another tiny example. I was on vacation. This was probably 5 years ago now in Australia. I was there with my husband and my youngest son, and there was a bridge that people were jumping off of. It was at a beach. I don't know how high it was. It seemed really, really high when I was up there, but my son and I had decided that we wanted to jump off this bridge into the water and swim to the beach. Now, clearly there were other people doing this. Nobody was dying. It didn't seem to be a life-threatening jump. But once you get over the railing, it seemed incredibly steep and far to me. And all of a sudden, I was absolutely unable to let go of the ledge that I was on. To the point that my son, who was going to go with me, and he was probably about 20 years old at the time, he ended up going and not waiting for me. Came back around. Here I am still hanging onto that ledge. And I'd been up there long enough that I really had time to examine what it was I was thinking. And I was a coach then. So this is something that I coach other people on. Sometimes you are your own worst client. But while I was standing up there, I thought, let me think about it. What am I actually thinking? And the thought that was just pounding in my head was, I don't want to do this. Well, of course, I was never going to let go of that ledge while I was saying, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. What I did, I changed the thought. I am choosing to do this. I was the one that was choosing to jump off the bridge. Nobody was paying me money to do it. Nobody was encouraging me to do it. I was the one who had the idea for it in the first place. And so when I changed my thought to that, I am choosing to do this, I want to do this, then it was something that I was able to do. And it was super fun. I absolutely did not regret it. And I felt amazing after I did it, right? It was something I wanted to do. I definitely had to find courage to do it. I did not have the confidence that I had done this before. I could say that other people had done it, but in my body, it didn't feel that way at all. So I was definitely needing to tap into courage to do it. So to tap into that courage, I had to change the thought I was having. And for me, it was, I choose to do this. I want to do this. Okay, so that is a deep dive on courage and confidence and what that actually looks like in a job search. And the reason that I bring this up is, like I said, it isn't that often that people are telling me, I don't have the confidence to go do this, but it is absolutely something that I see. I see procrastination. I see avoidance. I see people that aren't taking the actions that they know will move the needle. And a lot of it comes down to those thoughts in your head that are holding you back from doing it. The other thing I'm going to say, when we are holding ourselves back because of what we think other people will think of us, I got news for you. Most people don't give us very much thought at all. We spend so much of our time in our own heads thinking about ourselves that we just don't have that much time to think about it. I get messages from people on LinkedIn all the time, and a lot of them are definitely sales messages, and maybe that person agonized over sending it to me. Sometimes I respond, sometimes I don't, but what I don't do is really put a whole lot of thought into that other person. There's no judgment there. I just move on quickly, and that's what people do with you. There are a lot of people out there who want to help. There's also a lot of busy people who may not get around to it, but it doesn't mean anything, right? And so what I'm telling you is to find that courage for things that you haven't done, because that's what this market is asking of you, is for you to step forward and do things that are brand new. And of course, in time, the confidence will come, right? If you keep doing these courageous actions one after the other, these small little actions, then you will get confident. You will be confident when you go to an interview thinking, you know what? I just did 3 interviews last month. I get this. I know how to do it. I may not have interviewed in years, but I've been doing it. Also, one of the reasons why I tell people take all the interviews, because they are great practice. Even if you're offered an interview for a company that you don't plan to work at, go do the interview. First of all, maybe you will change your mind. Maybe you will be interested in the job. But second of all, it is helping you build that confidence muscle. If you have the courage to go do it, you are going to get one step closer to confidence. As you walk away today, think about something that you need the courage to go do. What is it that you have been holding back on? What do you think would move the needle for you? And what do you need to be thinking to get that courage? Get the thought, plant the thought in your mind that will allow you to take the next courageous step. Go have a great week and go be courageous. That's a wrap for this week on Land Your Next Job. If this episode helped, please leave a quick review and subscribe wherever you listen. Share it with a friend in transition, and I'll see you next Monday. Let's land your next job together.